All right, we are recording.
Great. Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Yee. I'm the co-chair of the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. And this is June 29th, and we're having our 2026 at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we're having our monthly meeting. I'm gonna have each of the voting members introduce themselves first, and then the non-voting members thereafter.
I'm Ron Wilkinson, the other co-chair for the PCAC.
I'm John Hilliard, a member of the PCAC and town meeting member.
I'm Christine Knopf, town meeting member for precinct 15, a member of PCAC.
Scott.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure. Scott Nanian, town meeting member for precinct 10 and a member of the committee.
Great. And non-voting members?
Lieutenant Amendola from the Brookline PD, Office of Professional Responsibility.
Thank you.
Susan Harris, Associate Town Council, Liaison to Town Council's Office.
Okay.
Jen Pastor, Chief of Police.
David
Sarah
Hill,
Kaplan.
Lieutenant with Community Relations.
Hey, Kristen, Bill.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Why don't we go through the agenda as we have it? Approval of the minutes of May 18th, 2026. Are there any edits, changes, amendments to the minutes? Anybody? If not, I could have a motion to accept them as written.
I moved to work Jeff Mitchell.
Oh, that's
Ron Wilkinson.
Ron Wilkinson,
I second.
Christine Cobb. And for vote, Ron
Aye.
John Hilliard, aye.
and Scott
Scott Nanian, aye.
and Paul Mead votes aye also.
Did Christine vote?
Oh, Christine, I'm sorry. Oh, my mistake. My mistake.
Tinker Bell.
My mistake. Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. And I know we
So-
have one, right?
We have one person who contacted me about public comment. We have quite a number of people in the audience tonight. The first person to sign up for public comment is Linda Roseman. Linda, you have 3 minutes. Your time will begin.
Have a seat at the table.
Because I'm not.
This is Linda Roseman. She used to be the chair.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was. So I'm Linda Roseman. I'm a town meeting member. I was first chair of the PCAC. And I missed you guys, so I thought I'd come tonight. When I saw that on your agenda that you were going to begin your discussion about Brookline's relationship with the Boston Regional Intelligence Center, I felt compelled to come and speak with you. I'm here because I was very disturbed by some of the inflammatory rhetoric that I heard at town meeting when Article 25 was discussed. And I wanted to urge you to look at facts and data and to listen to Chief Pastor and our public safety experts when they tell you that the information they receive and share via the BRIC is essential to keeping our community safe. The BRIC is a valuable public safety resource, so please approach your study with an open mind and common sense, and don't let the lens of ideology cloud your judgment. Thank you. I'm gonna stay. That's sure.
Thank you, Linda. Anybody else? Sarah?
I don't see any movement. I'm going to announce to the people online or in the room that if you wish to speak on anything that's not on the agenda tonight, now is the time to do so. Please raise your hand.
So what do you identify yourself?
Yeah. I'm David Butcher, resident of Brookline here for a couple of years. I have two things that have been on my mind last couple months, actually not related to BRIC, just a couple topics I'd be interested in hearing about in the future. One was the town payrolls came out, I think, since the last time there was a meeting here. And of course, that gets a lot of buzz, a lot of the police officers making the top of that list. I think Deputy Campbell did a really good job of answering a lot of the questions people had in the Brookline News article. And going through a lot of the reasons of why, how those numbers get so high. I think answers a lot of concerns of what people are talking about on the different message boards. Specifically, and we talked about the staffing issues we've had for a while here. But one interesting thing that he mentioned in that article was the 18-hour limit on how many hours an officer can work. And while I think it's incredible that there's people out there that would want to work for 18 hours, I certainly couldn't do that. Based on research, I did find that it's quite a bit of a higher number than a lot of other professions, such as pilots, doctors, even truck drivers, right? And all of those are generally for certain safety and proficiency reasons. And based on doing some calculations on how they got to the salaries they were, I mean, it did seem like some of those officers would have to be working 14, 15, 16 hours at least multiple times a week to be getting to that. And I wonder what the liability and the issue is to our town. I foresee a situation where there's a high intensity moment and an officer unfortunately makes a mistake, and then it comes out that they're on the 15th or 16th hour of their shift and they worked a 15 or 16-hour shift 2 days before that as well. It just seems like there's a lot of risk there for us. So I'm just interested in how we get to that 18-hour number, how often our officers are approaching that, and how we make sure that we're getting the most out of, the officers' time that we're paying for them to really be doing their true, 8-hour shift job for us in our town. So just I don't need answers now, just something that came up, and I think it's interesting.
Sure. We could put that on the agenda at some point. I think some other members have raised that concern. We'll have an in-depth discussion, and you should come back.
I will do that.
I never knew that. Anybody else?
I'm not seeing any movement, so if you wish to close public comment now, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you. I'll close public comment. And Kimberly Richardson, could you identify yourself?
Kimberly Richardson, PCAC.
Great, thank you. Because of town meeting and Article 25 and in the motion related to Article 25, there were some tasks and duties delegated to the PCAC and related to the work. And in order for all of us that have the same understanding of work, I thought it would be fruitful for us just to have an overview of the Boston Regional Intelligence Center work and the Brookline Police Department. This is meant to be an overview. This is not meant to be an in-depth discussion of any of the policy or the like. So everybody has a common understanding, hopefully, when we walk away from this presentation. And then when we go to the next topic, which is a review and discussion of that motion in Article 25, we can understand what the select board were getting at when those tasks and duties were delegated to us to come up with recommendations. So we invited the chief pastor to give that presentation. And again, it's an overview.
It's exactly that. Thank you all. And I was able to pull together just a few slides. Sarah, if you're able to share those.
Yeah, just give me a second.
But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. As Judge mentioned, it's really just an overview, meant to be no longer than 10 minutes on my part. An introductory overview of the BRIC, as we refer to it, and specifically our department's participation in that. I'm presenting to you what I know about the BRIC, both from my role as chief of police and also as our department's first liaison to the BRIC. I was assigned there from 2005 to 2011 when I was a detective. So I won't speak to technology specifically or anything like that, because I'm sure they're far surpassed what we were using back at that time. But Sarah, if you could go to the first slide, that's it. Just the 4 topics I'll cover tonight: a factual overview of what the BRIC is, an explanation of what Brookline's participation is in the BRIC and how we use the information provided. Third, the legal and policy framework that governs information sharing. And finally, hopefully some context that will assist the committee as it begins the review of, that was dictated by Article 25. I do appreciate this group specifically taking that on. I think this is the group best equipped to handle that rather than establishing a new committee to look, at this issue, with the background that everybody here has. I'm sorry for the additional work for all of you, but I do think that it makes the most sense. I hope you agree with that. Okay, next. So just a little bit of a brief history to understand the BRIC. It's important to go back to why they were created in the first place. And it was a recommendation of the 9/11 Commission when they were looking back at how September 11th happened. It was discovered that a lot of individual law enforcement agencies held information in silos. They weren't sharing it with one another, and there was really no mechanism in place for us to do that. One of the greatest challenges was not, that we lacked the information, it was that it was fragmented. No single agency had the complete picture, and people that had bits of information weren't exactly sure at that time what to do with it. So fusion centers were developed to improve information sharing among local, state, tribal, and federal partners, so that information can be compiled and evaluated holistically and together. Today, fusion centers support much more than counterterrorism. They help identify crime trends, provide officer safety information, support major event planning, and improve coordination during emergencies and significant incidents. What I have up there is, I stole it online, but I hope it's an accurate representation of all the fusion centers across the country. In the state of Massachusetts, we have two. We have the Commonwealth Fusion Center, which is statewide. And BRIC is the fusion center that serves the greater Boston area. You might hear, it came up a few times in the conversations that led up to town meeting, BRIC and UASI used interchangeably. They are two separate things. UASI is the Homeland Security region that is covered by UASI grant funding. The BRIC's reach is a little bit more than the 9 cities and towns that make up UASI. So when people say that, Newton example got brought up, Newton is not part of UASI. They're not part of that designated Homeland Security region. They are, however, served by the BRIC. Okay. So what BRIC provides to Brookline PD, it's a lot of things. These are the biggest, what we tend to use them the most for. So officer safety alerts, BOLOs, be on the lookout, crime trend and threat analysis, speaking very generically, right? Like we don't have a lot of, we got away from cars being stolen back when I was assigned to the BRIC as technology got better. And then technology continued to develop. We had a kind of a pause in cars being stolen. This is just like one generic example. And then we saw an uptick in cars being stolen again when technology made it so that keyless entry and keyless starts replaced the anti-theft devices that were being used, like the clubs, for example. Things that kind of go, trends come in and out, right? And so, with that, it's important to have kind of a regional picture of crime and what it looks like. Missing and wanted persons notifications to include juveniles, elders, in terms of missing people, wanted person, and that includes both suspects that are known and also some of the flyers that you might see on our social media posts do not come from the BRIC, but similar to that, where we post a photo of somebody and we're looking to identify that person. A lot of times, for example, if somebody's committing crimes here in Brookline, we send that information to the BRIC, it's likely that they have a criminal history in Boston, and a Boston police officer might be familiar with who that person is. Critical infrastructure, event security notifications and information, no shortage of examples, especially this year between, the marathon, FIFA, tall ships, 250th anniversary celebration. That is not something that Brookline, the Brookline Police Department could, handle on our own. We rely on our regional, state, local, federal partners for that kind of security planning. And that's similar to the fifth one that is there. But basically, the underlying principle is simple, where we can make better informed decisions and strategize, come up with more effective safety plans when we work with our partners and we have access to timely, relevant, and lawfully shared information. And then I think the last slide coming up with regard to safeguards. So safeguards and oversight, there are a lot of guardrails that are in place to govern, how we collect information, gather information, and share information. Obviously, we have the Constitution and Massachusetts state laws. 28 CFR Part 23 is the federal regulation that is specific to intelligence gathering and information sharing. All fusion centers are governed by that federal regulation. Every bulletin that is disseminated has on it, the need to know, right to know, who should have access to that information. Everything that is contained within these databases has an audit trail attached to it, so we see who's looking at what information. So if there is a data breach, we're able to investigate how it could have happened. Information sharing is not unrestricted. It's shared based upon legal authority, mission-specific need to know, and right to know. The BRICS dissemination procedures require that recipients be appropriate for the information being shared, that handling instructions be applied, and that products receive supervisory review before they're disseminated. Brookline PD, we have our own policies governing how information received from any outside agency might be used. We don't use, for example, a detective in Boston is to identify, suspect. We still do our own vetting process to, make sure that we have, we don't just rely on that information alone. We do additional investigative work.
A question? Yeah, so from what you just said, is it part of the procedures manual, how we do our independent investigations? To verify, for example, the example you gave of a detective, is that written somewhere? How do we go about that?
Let me get back to that. It's sort of a basic procedure. So I imagine it is covered somewhere in the law, but it's sort of covered in the 101 in the police academy that, you have to know. It has to be veracity. You need to know, how you know what you know.
Yeah.
It needs to be clearly spelled out before you act on the information. But I will see if it's in one of our policies, spelled out that quickly.
Okay.
Jen, is there like a book that's a brick book?
I don't know. Not that we have, to the best of my knowledge. It might be a question for the folks in Boston. I would imagine, that the analysts assigned to the BRIC, because they're not Brookline police employees or town of Brookline employees, they're City of Boston employees.
Right.
So they're governed by similar regulations. Like Boston's Trust Act is similar to our select board's policy on, for example, in our internal policy on immigration enforcement and what we share with them. There are a lot of parallel policies and procedures. I don't know if there's
So, but it might be something tucked in your policy and procedure book.
tucked in.
Well,
Yeah.
Instead of tab in there or something.
Yeah, so,
probably, yeah.
we're not, I imagine that there is a BRIC, like a guide that they give their analysts. I'd be speculating to say that there is or there's not, but I would imagine that there probably is, but not one that I have.
So I did some online search for unclassified BRIC information. So I found, I don't know if this is accurate or it's junk stuff that is put on the internet by somebody. There is a BRIC SOP.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's specific to, sorry.
2025.
Yep.
And then there's also a 2024 BRIC privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties protection policy. That's very lengthy.
Yeah.
And so is that?
So, yeah, I was gonna, so they do have policies. Again, I think they're public in that you have access to them, but I think they're specific to their personnel.
Okay, there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that would work, if we give information to the BRIC, for example, they're not going to disseminate it without running it through their own internal processes. So all that to say, that our participation in the BRIC, it doesn't replace our own independent judgment and our own policies and procedures. That's what governs the work that our officers do. We remain responsible for ensuring that any information we received is handled appropriately and consistent with our own legal obligations and our departmental policies. Um, and so that is all I had prepared. We're gonna keep it at a
Yeah.
very broad, sort of introductory level presentation. You know, you're gonna have to keep it to the number of important questions and lengthier discussions.
So you had mentioned, you say, could you give us the full name of you say, and how's that different from work?
So UASI is the Urban Area Security Initiative.
Okay.
So there were areas across the country that were designated as high risk following 9/11 that were deemed to be eligible for additional money from the federal government in order to protect critical infrastructure.
Okay,
So we are part of Boston's UASI region. We're the UASI region for the state. I'll forget one: Boston, Brookline, Cambridge, Somerville, Everett, Winthrop, Revere, Chelsea, and Quincy is the UASI region.
so how many?
9.
So is it the same 9 as in Brick or different?
So those communities are served by the BRIC, but there are additional communities that are also served by the BRIC that don't receive the UASI funding.
And you mentioned Newton as an example.
Newton,
Yeah, Newton is an example.
Newton's an example.
It's in Brick, but not in, not both.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
Any questions by anybody? Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Nothing from Scott?
Let's stop.
We're looking at an overview. We're looking at an overview, Scott.
Yeah, I'll wait until the discussion.
Please, okay? Because you'll lose me then. No? All right. Let's move on. 6, review and discussion of, motion to Article 25, and it's on the May 26th, 26 town meeting. And basically it asks, us to give a recommendation whether or not Brookline should remain a member of BRIC. And also to complete a list of investigative and analytical tasks. I want to discuss that and how we should approach that. And we need to do this by the next town meeting, which is in May 2027. Correct?
The next annual, so yeah.
Right.
that might
The
be
next
right.
town meeting would be in November.
Yeah, that's a special town meeting, right?
So the
I believe the
annual,
wording was next annual town meeting, so that's in May.
Yeah.
and I know there's several town meeting people here. Do any of you wish to speak about the history and what people were asking and what was going on at that point in time? So we're clear that we do what they want us to do.
Well, they basically want to stop applying for funds.
Okay,
Riossi was one part of the warrant article. And we've also with Brick, but passed overwhelmingly at town meeting, it was like 20 to, what was it, 20 something?
223 to 14,
Yeah.
13. Yeah.
and were everybody able to go through that motion and,
I didn't left every piece of paper at home.
oh,
I
okay,
had 2 hours long,
okay.
tape from John.
I mean, I have it. My perception of someone who voted on it was that I don't know the background of how it came to be, but the nature of the warrant article felt like a large research task insofar as the PCAC is involved. Like we have a lot of work to do from a research and fact-finding perspective, and then ultimately a recommendation to the select board prior to the next annual town meeting. And so I voted public, but yes, in favor of it, that it was worthwhile for our committee to do the research.
Okay. So Does anybody have a sense how we should approach it?
So I just want to be clear, there are 4 tasks for you listed on the agenda, and I just want you to know, like, I want to make sure you understand what those tasks are.
Right, no, I list the tasks in the agenda. I didn't want to repeat them, but I can repeat those.
I think for the public, it might be a good idea just to read it out. And I
Scott,
can,
Hands up.
Scott wanted to say something first. Yes, Scott?
Thanks. If I could, I did notice that Jessica Chico is here. I don't know if she's prepared, but given that she was one of the petitioners, I thought it might be polite to ask her to give 5 minutes for what she's hoping from her perspective. And then my question for the chief, and this is sort of getting ahead of ourselves. I think John is right that most of what is charged with the task right now for the committee is a lot of research before we are going to weigh in on any policy. But from the chief's perspective, I'd be interested in knowing from her what she thinks the viable leverage points are. What are things could we meaningfully interact with either how we contribute to the BRIC or how we take the BRIC products back? If there is the most fruitful thing from her perspective, even if it's just auditing to check that that BRIC is following the policies, or if it sounds to me that so far that BRIC is staffed by Boston city employees and therefore is more or less bound by Boston policies. So given that, one thing that we might do as a committee is compare those Boston policies to Brookline and see where there are differences or whatnot. If we were to do that and identify some discrepancy, something that we thought could be tightened or loosened or whatnot, what are the avenues we have to meaningfully influence either what we do with the BRIC products or how the BRIC operates? And I think somewhat separate questions. I don't want to confuse the BRIC and UASI, but UASI grants are a sort of separate thing, and the select board generally reviews them on a case-by-case basis when we get them. So my assumption is that any interaction we have with UASI as opposed to BRIC is mostly in terms of reviewing specific grants that we do or do not take money from the federal government on behalf of. So it's somewhat separate in that case that is handled more on a case-by-case basis. But I'd be interested in if my understanding is wrong, I'd love to know.
I think that the second piece, the URC grants, I think you hit the nail on the head. Anytime I go or any town agency goes, would like to accept a grant from URC, you do have to go in front of the board. And they accept or deny it. Most recently, I think at the last select board meeting, we were given a grant from USC in the amount of roughly $40,000 to go towards the purchase of a K9 vehicle. So that's spelled out the specifics are in there in the packet for everybody to read. Public comment is allowed.
And I know we had the conversation from the town administrator about a grant that was going to have more conditions on it, and we pushed back. And to my perspective, the system is working as designed. In that case, there is a possibility for us to push back and debate whether or not it's worth taking those, accepting those golden handcuffs when they come. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
The first part of your question, that was also 25 questions. And that's okay. It's a little bit more complicated. I think most, as far as I know, the policies and procedures that govern the BRIC and their operations, I think are publicly available, as ours are. So I think that would be a good way to go about it, is comparing, the policies and seeing where there might be any discrepancies or just loose ends to tie up. In terms of evaluating the BRIC and addressing some of the concerns that the petitioners had, it gets a little bit more complicated because, as we mentioned, the dissemination of materials is based on a need to know, right to know, basis. So this group, we're not gonna, I won't even have access to a lot of the material, that the BRIC that's published or can provide in terms of databases and things like that, because what is my right to know? I think, if it's not a case that I'm involved with, It's none. So it, it's not to say it's not, worth trying and having conversations maybe with Boston City Council or, whoever the counterparts would be in the city of Boston, for this group. I think that might be a good place to start. But, yeah, given that just the nature of some of the material, I can give you a list of, I kind of laid it out in the slides, we get bolos, we get wanted flyers, we get missing persons, we get that kind of law enforcement sensitive information that I can give examples of. But specifics, it's hard to imagine any specifics that I could provide.
Well, I'm just, in terms of hypotheticals, I'm just trying to answer the chair's question about guiding our investigation. I don't want us to go down a route where the advice we give is not useful because it's not actionable, right? So, if we were to say, decide that the gang database that BRIC's maintained is fundamentally, unjust, and we were to say, don't send us any bolos or anything that are sourced from the gang database. Is that a power that we have as Brookline? Is that something that we could do?
I don't, so I think, so if we, they don't really publish the gang database as a database. It serves nobody any purpose, really. What we might get is if there's a suspect we're looking at and they've been identified for a crime in Brookline, if they are a gang member, we might get that information from the BRIC. And that is often relevant. Sometimes it's not relevant, but it might be.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is where can we put our finger on the scale and say, when we get that information from BRIC, we add a little note to say, BRIC says this is a gang member, but I'm trying to push a hypothetical. So this is jumping the gun and assuming that we have that we find out that there are problems with the gang database. I'm trying to make a hypothetical and forgive me for that. But if we were to decide that one of these pieces of information we get is unjust or not consistent with Brookline values, can we just add a note to that says, yes, the BRIC says that this was a gang affiliated member. Be aware that in Brookline, we view this notation with suspicion, or, please verify it with Brookline's sources before acting on this information or something like that. Like, is that an option we have?
So in the we in this, if it involves non-law enforcement, I would say no, because you wouldn't, somebody's gang affiliation or suspected gang affiliation wouldn't be public information.
I mean, I don't want to push this too far because this is still a hypothetical. I'm trying to figure out what the pipeline is between BRIC information and ours, and if we feel that there are aspects of that information which are, if trying to find those intermediate points between saying we don't want any information from BRIC and we'll accept all the information. Is there some middle point where we can say we're going to accept the information from BRIC, but we're going to do our own due diligence or something, or attach a notice or filter it in some way beyond a binary black or white, we accept it or not?
It might go back to, I forget which one of you asked the question, I apologize, but our own investigative leads and how we know what we know, right? That we have to have the veracity and the basis of knowledge when we get information.
I asked the question.
Yeah.
But I also want to mention that when I reviewed the documents that Paul found from BRIC talking about the policies and procedures and the structure of BRIC, it said that within BRIC, and I realize that means within the Boston, that all of the cases have to have when there's specific information, such as whether it's a gang member or whatever, that there has to be also a notation of how reliable they think the information is, like, certain, and there were various grades of reliability. And my impression, and this is me just having an impression because I don't have that information directly, is that if a particular suspect, information about a particular suspect is given to the Brookline PD, first of all, there would at least be the BRIC's own assessment about whether or not it was reliable, but also I would hope that also because Brookline retains independent investigative ability, that if you for whatever reason had reason within the department to question the reliability, that you could put in your own designation in Brookline, and also perhaps if you find otherwise that it wasn't reliable, give that information back to Brick, that there is a question about that reliability. Because I noticed in the Brick manual, there was even a mechanism for correcting erroneous information. The question is, the question I think that will come is, the policies sound great. Are they actually enforced, and can they actually be done? But I had the impression that at least the mechanisms were there. At least people had thought about the notion that such things can happen, and there was a mechanism. It was at least a mechanism on paper for doing something about those kinds of things. But what's going to be interesting in our research is, do we have reason to believe that things are working the way they're supposed to, or whether we believe that there's some kind of question about enforcement, and we don't know that yet. Just don't have the information yet.
And I think we'd be best served by folks staying focused as much as possible on Brookline PD, because that's what we have control over, you know.
Yeah.
Even if we were to withdraw from the brick still goes on without us, and we lose, you know, like, they don't need us, they don't need Brookline, they're better because we contribute. The more law enforcement agencies contribute with good, reliable information, the better the information is. But we could withdraw it, and it makes really no dent on their operations.
Yeah.
So I think
I
we're
just,
served by just focusing on what we can control and our own policies, procedures, and what we do with that information, which again, you know, if we get information from the brick that helps the detective identify somebody, we still have our own process. We still have the judicial process where we apply for a warrant. And any judge is going to ask, you know, how we know what we know, before they issue a warrant. Those checks and balances, I think, are convinced.
if I could conclude, I guess this was more of a sense of an open invitation to you, Chief, about, you know, if there are more productive ways to sort of interact or filter with or alter the ways that we change, that we interact with the brick. I'm you know, I think we'll be interested in learning what those levers and knobs are. It is a little bit premature at this point because we haven't done all this research that has been asked of us. So I don't know the particular things. I don't know the knobs that we want to turn, right? But part of it is trying to figure out, you know, which knobs those are, where they are, what we can meaningfully change. Anyway, that was my question or / comment. I do think it might be worth giving Jessica Chico 5 minutes, but I've said my piece. Thanks.
So,
Question, Jen, if there's,
what do we?
I'm sorry.
Why don't we let our members comment on question first, and then we wish then if I'll grab the yes, Christine.
My question is that, if you have a person you want information on, do you send it out to all 9? Does it go to all 9 neighborhoods, or does it just go to Boston?
Do you mean like a identification wanted?
Yeah.
So something like that, you know, if somebody has, you know, it's presumed that, for example, you can see them on our social media. So that would go, sometimes it goes public. If we're not quite ready for that, it might just go into the brick and it will just get disseminated to law enforcement agencies that partner with the brick. So that includes the cities and towns outside of USC as well.
So they would be able to see that, and if you wanted information.
Yes.
I have a general question from a policy perspective. It sounds like our relationship with Brick goes back to a long time, 2005. And a lot of the like Brookline procedures and policies are newer, like the ICE things, or some of our policies on sort of like criminal information and investigative policies and procedures. I'm wondering, have we tried to reconcile the newer policies that have been enforced with the way that the brick might operate, or the way that it might, you know, leverage our data, since the sort of MOU that was attached to predates a lot of our newer policies?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's data, like in particular, I think we have some policies around the information that Brookline as a town would accept, not just that we would provide. And that it has some implications for the way that the brick itself operates. And so I had some questions looking, I can't remember if it's General Order 43 or there's a lot of numbers, sorry. But
No, there are.
it seemed like that our policy would have an implication for not only how we handle our own information, we being Brookline, but like how we accept information from other third parties like Brick or, you know, the Flock Reader or whatever, whoever we partner with.
Thinking about, I guess, immigration specifically, because that's the policy
Sure.
that's changed in 43. So Boston is also governed by a similar act, which sort of eliminates you know, the likelihood of immigration status related information coming to us because Boston does not have it to give to us in the first place. And having said that, you know, if we were to get it, for example, from an out-of-state agency, you know, we might get it from a neighbor, you know, another Brookline community member might tell us that somebody has overstayed their visa, that we are, you know, undocumented, and you get that information and we disregard it and proceed within our policies and procedures. We would do the same.
I think just to state it, then I think it could be worthwhile for us, like the PCAC, to look at some of that reconciliation as well as part of the research then. Because yeah, there's a lot of policies that we have, and in my notes, it's 41 is the one that dictates kind of like, you know, no information will be submitted to, accepted by, or maintained regarding political, religious, or social views. And, you know, gang affiliation starts to creep in, or certainly counter-terrorist that has religious implications going back to 9/11. So, but yeah, the order of these things and how they apply now, if we took a look at the whole picture, I think could be interesting for us to dig into.
I definitely think it's worth looking into and making sure that our policies cover everything that we want to see covered. A lot of, when we wrote that policy, a lot of it was cut and paste from the federal guidelines, the CF 28 CFR 23. It's always the Constitution, but it's always worth making sure that we are up to date and doing the thing. And I should have said, you know, more specifically, rather than, comparing the data that we get from another law enforcement agency, you know, we get the data from law enforcement agencies every time ICE calls to say they have a detainer on somebody, and we do with that exactly what our policy tells us to do with that.
So John had mentioned MOU, right? What I found online was an MOU from 2011. Is that still?
I don't believe there's one. I haven't seen one since I've been chief. That's been more recent, but I will. We'll take it.
Is there a good way for us from PCAC to basically know what information that would be being from work at this time and what our interactions with Rick, so at least we know what we're doing before we then expand to what they're doing, you know, and we'll sort of understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's the brick sounds mysterious.
Right.
Before the brick, it would be, you know, sending a fax of a photo just to other, you know, a network of law enforcement agencies, asking if anybody knows who that person is, and you can't because those fact. But a lot of it is, it's not as formal as that might make it sound like we're sending it to brick, but it's really just kind of one-stop shopping for that same dissemination that was happening, you know, in detective networks.
So part of what Article 25 asks us to do is in-person discussions with BRIC officials. So I don't know any BRIC officials. So is there, so I know you're no longer the liaison, 2011. So do we have a liaison?
We actually don't currently because of our staffing shortages. We have detectives who will try to sit in on, you know, the daily call, and all of our detectives have access to the products that they put out, but that position no longer exists as an isolated designated position.
Okay. All right. And so is there a person that could make introductions for us?
So I
So
can
we-
make introductions. I cannot guarantee their attendance at a meeting.
Right. No.
I can certainly make the
Right.
introduction.
Right, so we can, fulfill this part, of in-person discussions with the officials. And also asking them about the database and, because we need to get in and know what the discipline database is, the content of each database, number of individuals in those database, demographic, breakdowns, the criteria used, for those databases. It's a long
It's
list.
a lot. You might
So,
be
so
not telling you how to do it. I
No, no,
think
no, I'm
for
not.
your request.
I,
is
no,
the
I
best.
already have that in the back of
Yeah.
my mind. But, to the extent that I could get voluntary cooperation, at least let me get that, right? And then we'll probably have to engage town council for FOIA request, more formally, for us to get that information.
Yeah, and I don't think we're the only agency that's having this discussion. But I don't think we're the only municipality rather having this discussion and looking at its relationship with the BRIC and other fusion centers.
Okay,
I don't know if that will inspire the BRIC to proactively kind of produce some of these documents that they might be getting requests for from a bunch of different municipalities. It's hard to say.
right.
That's what I would like to see, but
Yeah, perhaps you can get back to me and how we can arrange that in production. At least we can discuss it and talking with them about what we want from them. On where it go, whoever.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so the only thing I would like to comment is, I did notice that in the, I believe it was in the MOU, but it might have been in the, operating procedure, they did list particular offices or officers. I mean, they named the individuals who were in office at the time, but they also named the role. It was a role-based thing where if you want to talk to big officials, this is the office to talk to. And I presume there are people who are in those roles right now. And it would be great to develop a personal relationship with the people who are in those roles right now, but the roles are defined. So we're not sort of completely in the dark, I would say.
no,
So there's that.
yeah, Superintendent Cullinane is the sworn position. Her position oversees the BRIC and she's fantastic. I just don't know. She has a boss and it's not us.
Yeah.
So, I can't guarantee that. She will come to a meeting, but I think, if we send over some questions or, engage in some very basic, some overview type stuff, I think personally I think it's fantastic and that's what I have heard questions, that's why.
so superintendent,
Cullinane. Lanita is the person.
I'm sorry,
Lanita, Lanita.
tell it. And
Yeah, Cullinane, Cullinaane.
so all work people on the police department.
They're police department employees, but they're, a lot of them are non-sworn. They're civilian analysts. Intel.
Does BRIC have a practice for doing, I'll call them yearly public reports about BRIC activities, either for PR or for other or for regulatory reasons?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we can find out. But that might be worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, for statistics in it, that's the beginning of it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, is BRIC, is Boston the nucleus for BRIC?
Yes,
And so all the other towns, Boston is the nucleus.
yes,
That's where
they
emanating
host,
from.
they host the office, they employ the analysts. And the oversight,
And they have information systems.
yes.
All right, going back to the original topic. So how should we tackle this?
Well, I mean, there were 4 specific charges.
Right,
It may very well be that, we have, assigned one member of the specific individual members of the committee to handle specific, to take the lead on particular, items on, whatever that we're charged with. That may not make sense. I have to take a quick look at it again, but that may be one approach.
okay. So, let's see this. So, paragraph 4 is 4 things. I see, okay. We could do it that way. Any other ways? Any members have?
You could put together a subcommittee of under 4 members.
I'm sorry?
A subcommittee have to apply.
You could hold a subcommittee with 3 or 2 members.
Subcommittee with members. Okay.
Yes. A subcommittee would need to post an agenda and it would need to have, documents posted just like this meeting. But
Right.
if you would like to host a subcommittee, it's something we could do. I could figure out a schedule for.
Okay, that's what we want.
Yeah. Well, we did that with the police reform and reimagining committees. We had the overall committee and then each of those committees then had subcommittees within them. Because the topics were so wide, it's just too difficult.
Did they recommend the subcommittee members where they should be from? Didn't they, was there any, recommendation of the subcommittee?
No, the subcommittee should be us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we could add some other people too.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the other members
Yeah.
come from.
The way I look at it is somebody has to be in charge of looking at databases and how to get out those databases. And perhaps if it's not voluntary compliance, is follow up with town council for FOIA requests. Maybe a subcommittee on that database. And then analyzing the data once it's obtained. And once it's analyzed, obviously, that has to go into a report, writing a report about those databases. So, the other part,
Doug has his hand up.
Scott, yes.
Sorry, just some comments on organizing the process. I do think that having some subcommittees may be useful so that not all of the members of the committee need to do all sections all the time. I'll also say from other committees, it is, given an agenda in the public process, having a meeting where folks just hash out the document on Google Docs on stream shared, and we all just go through it and make edits to the document in real time is not something we've done often in this committee, but also because we haven't been writing that type of report as much. And this may be a case where we really just need to pull up a section of the report and go through it. Again, I don't know that every member of the committee needs to go through every word of the report, but and there may be a role for a subcommittee there, but some drafting meetings may be useful. Also, you've mentioned that the charge does ask for in-person conversations with things. I think inviting them to meetings of the PCAC, either of a subcommittee or the whole PCAC, may be a way to both have those conversations and invite the public to participate in them. I don't know if if an arbitrary member of BRIC is going to be willing to attend a meeting of this committee, but we could at least invite some and see if we can have some of those public conversations that way. Anyway, those were my process suggestions.
So just
the other question I just had, Jessica Chico does have her hand up, and just out of politeness, I seem to understand that the committee wants to have the conversation among committee members first before inviting the general public to comment. And if that's the case, I just wanted that stated clearly so that she knows when she's be called upon, if she's going to be called upon, and not just left waiting.
Well, if we just gotta talk about what's needed, and I think the list is pretty specific of what's needed. It's a matter of getting that accomplished, you know, how we're gonna get the database from BRIC, unless she knows people, you know, method and means to do that, you know, I don't think it's very helpful at this time to the committee to hear about that. Or she knows about the criteria that's used for justification, validity of individuals in the BRIC databases. I mean, you know, I'm trying to figure out a way for us to get all this accomplished within the time limit that's set. If she can contribute to that, I'm more than willing to hear her. Scott?
I mean, for me, as a matter of courtesy, I think we're going to do our best to arrange the report. I'd hate for us to end up with a report which doesn't actually sort of do the things that the petitioners were hoping to do or go off in the wrong direction. So, you know, my perspective here is offering the petitioners themselves an opportunity just to say, you know, yes or no. Is this what they were hoping for, or are we going off in a different direction from what they were hoping for? You know, without spending all this effort writing a 150-page report and it being unsatisfactory to everyone. That's my only concern, right?
Well, you know, part of this charge is we have to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, officials, petitioners, civil rights people, everybody. It's just not talking to BRIC.
Yeah. May I suggest something? Okay, so the person you're talking about, Scott, is one of the people who put the petition before the town meeting. You know, so, you know, I'm not a member of town meeting, so I wasn't in on that at all. And I for one would be interested in just kind of at least even being introduced, you know, via Zoom to one of the petitioners. We don't have to go into a very elaborate kind of a thing, but I am kind of curious at the very least about, you know, what drove the petition and why. So I would very much like to hear from her, you know, briefly.
Would you like me to
Is that?
promote her?
Yes. Thank you, Sarah.
I'm already
Um,
here, I think, Sarah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Jessica Kiko. I was one of the co-petitioners. I also chair the Immigrant Advancement Committee, which is a committee of our town's Commission for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations, which is one of the bodies with which this committee or the subcommittee that you create is meant to confer in reviewing the charge. I joined tonight not to make public comments, which is why I didn't raise my hand during the public comment portion. I was mostly interested in Chief Pastor's presentation, so thank you for what you've shared. I have a lot of specific questions that I hope will get hashed out over the course of the committee's work and study. But I mostly, at this point, as you set up kind of the process to look into this, I just want to kind of remind everyone that in addition to lots of resources that you have within the town of Brookline, including, you know, an expert immigration attorney, BU professor who spoke in favor of warrant Article 25 at town meeting, who's a Brookline resident. There are, you know, national and local corporations that have really done a lot of work into trying to understand the BRIC, including the Brennan Center at NYU, ACLU, Muslim Justice League, who's also here tonight. And so I hope that, you know, I don't have a direct line to get access to the information that we are asking you to gather. If I did, we would have done it and we wouldn't have needed a study. So I think the BRIC is intentionally, you know, difficult to understand. And so there's lots of basic questions about structures. Like we've learned tonight, you can be part of the BRIC, but not UASI, but is the other way around also true? You know, to what extent are they disentangled? To what extent do federal officers have access to information? So I think that there's a lot of questions there about not only how information is, tonight I feel like we mostly talked about how information comes out of the BRIC and can, in some circumstances, be helpful to communities, but we haven't really talked about how information gets fed into the BRIC, and then whether that information is verified and how, and then who has access to that information. And I think those are some of the big questions, as well as kind of any funding that would require BRIC participation. So I hope that this committee or the subcommittee that is created sees me and the Immigrant Advancement Committee and the CDICR and all petitioners as kind of a resource, because in bringing this warrant article, we educated ourselves quite a lot and realized that there are significant gaps in the information that is out there. I would say the city of Boston has done a number of hearings to better understand the BRIC and has expressed significant concerns around that. And just because something is supposedly in compliance with the Trust Act doesn't mean that it's all fine or not concerning to us for other reasons. So I hope that this committee also reviews all the information and testimony that's been submitted to Boston City Council as well.
Thank you. When was the city council hearings about BRIC?
There have been numerous, including one, I think, earlier just this month. I can try, I'm happy to compile information about recording of public hearings that have happened for the city of Boston and share those.
Who's the chair of that committee who's having the hearings?
I'm sorry, which committee?
Who is the chair of the committee that's
In the Washington City Council.
that's having the hearings? Was it done?
I'm not sure. I don't have the answer to that, but I can try and find out.
I believe the most recent hearing was June 4th. I'm not sure who chairs that. And just to add, I just sent the link. Every year under one of the Boston PD rules and regulations, the BRIC is required to report out on very basic numbers, and I can just read between January 1, 25 and December 31st, 25, 94 individuals were added to the BPD. So they moved away from calling it the gang database. Rather, it's called the Associative Violence Information System, or AVIS system, sorry. So 94 people were added, 252 were removed. In accordance with procedures detailed in BPD Rule 335, which is online. Additionally, at the start of 2026, there were 1,567 individuals and 80 groups represented in that database. So that information is available online, but that's the extent of what they report out annually. So you can go back to 2021 for all that.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is, whoops, what is the last? Oh, sorry. Yeah. I just saw it. Yeah.
Oh, the chair
There it is.
maybe.
Yeah.
I know Maynard. I used to work with.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. I've known him for a while. All right, 40 years.
Congratulations, you're the chair of the subcommittee.
No, so as we approach this, what Jessica mentioned is the speakers, and I think somebody needs to be in charge of that, gathering speakers from all different views, right? Some of the speakers she's already mentioned, the Brennan Center, I thought about, the ACLU has done a lot of work in this, the Muslim Justice League, and she has mentioned some of the Defenders Organization, CPCS. I know Susan Church, immigration lawyer, has done a lot of work in this area, both immigration and criminal. So somebody needs to be in charge of that, and maybe somebody from uh, who's a town meeting member, can work with people like Jessica to round up these people, and we could start scheduling for hearing. All right. So,
Excuse me.
yes,
It might be prudent to hear from some of the other petitioners because we just got a lot of information from Jessica. So I'm wondering if it's worth again having some other petitioners come and maybe get more information from them so
Well-
we can tighten up our.
if we had
Sure.
like one or two people
Yeah.
assigned to that, then those people can hunt down the other petitioners and meet with them and get a list of people. And then start scheduling, either for a subcommittee hearing or a main hearing. Because if you look at it, we only have 11 months. And for 11 months, you probably need at least 2 months to draft. All right. You know, what the process we want to do, our findings, our conclusions, our recommendations, right? Everybody needs to have input into that report. It goes to the select board, right? And our recommendation. So let's say 2 from 11, that's 9 months. You know, it's not a lot of time. We skipping some regular monthly meetings already, and we're gonna have a full schedule for that. So,
And you're not gonna really get it all done in one week, so you're gonna be still.
right, yeah, right, exactly. All right.
What you say, Kim?
I was just saying that you're not gonna get it all done in monthly meeting, right? Like, we know that's not enough time, so we need to start thinking about scheduling stuff. First of all, you need to go ahead and establish some subcommittee meetings. You need to figure out how many it's gonna be, establish them so that you can get them on the books and on the record so you can start moving forward.
Yeah,
I mean, that, this seems so huge. I don't even know how you're gonna get it done for the next town meeting. I don't think it'll.
Mammoth.
I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't wait. I would assign it tonight.
okay, all right. I agree with Sarah. Yes, I agree.
As the person who has to run all these meetings, please assign it tonight.
Okay,
We lost Scott again.
got 1 o'clock?
We lost him.
No, we got discussed it with you, yeah? Let's see, so we have,
Hold on, you might be in the waiting room. I'm sorry. I just didn't notice
Okay.
who's left. Scott, are you back?
Yes, I think so. Can you hear me?
I
Yeah,
can
yes.
hear you now.
Sorry, I had network problems.
to make sure you're participating.
I did.
Um. What about this? So why don't we have a database subcommittee? A subcommittee on speakers from all points of view. They will get all of that on the record. Maybe a subcommittee just on our home police department and interaction with Rick. So we're looking outward, we're also looking inward too. And making sure all our bases are covered. And getting all the information from our own department. I don't know if that would work, or if you want to do something else.
Can I just go through the 4 things that you guys are being asked to do? And I would suggest creating 4 subcommittees. 1 for each of these questions. Provide us with a fully transparent and accurate information of its operations. I would do an operations subcommittee. Demonstrate compliance with its operations with Brookline's expectations of non-discrimination and due process. So there's a compliance committee. Provide evidence of accurate and valid determination of inclusion of individuals in its database. So there's a database committee and show effective oversight of its operations by appropriate local civilian officials. So there's like a local officials, like a local process,
Or an
like
oversight committee.
oversight committee. Those are the four things you're being asked to do. So like each committee can answer one of the charges.
Okay,
Can you share it, like, so we can see?
I can't.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, maybe just share it on the screen if possible.
Hold on. Right there.
Thank you.
And then I would invite speakers to talk to the entire PCAC. That's just my suggestion.
I guess one reaction is that like these three charges aren't necessarily like independent of each other. And I could see the subcommittee is doing a lot of duplicate work for established four. But humbly, I haven't thought of a better proposal. It does feel like that's a lot of subcommittees. And like I'm looking at 3, provide evidence of accurate and valid determinations of inclusions in its databases. Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, I don't know how we get that information. I don't see it happen, like, they're not gonna give us access to their database. So how can we prove that? And so.
We've had access to the database, it's also a matter of how the inputs go in and how they're verified. I mean, it's just this, what's physically in the database, that's how it gets in there, you know, and how it gets maintained, you know. And I did see in the materials provided that there were at least supposedly mechanisms for vetting the validity of information that goes into the database, and that the level of confidence, that's what I'm looking for. The level of confidence is supposed to be associated with each item in the database. So I can see that formally the mechanisms are there, but it's going to be hard to figure out how to know whether those protocols are actually being followed. You know, that's very, very, very difficult to do.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm going to guess without knowing that some of the I'll say advocates out there who have been questioning the validity of information in the database have done studies of their own to figure out, at least from their point of view, why they think the information is accurate or not. And while it would be interesting for us to look at what their reasoning was, we'd also have to think about what particular I'll say assumptions went into the reasoning, and we might very well end up coming up with, you know, other assumptions or counter assumptions, but it's going to be hard to be totally objective, you know, on the face of it. I'm not sure. It's just going to be hard, you know. I don't know that we're able to make it definitive. It may be the best that we'll be able to do is say, you know, these are the people who have these particular questions. This is what we could this is what we could do to verify. This is what we could not do to verify these particular assumptions, and just kind of leave it out there that, look, it's messy, and these are the ways that it's messy, and this is the best we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question, right? So when I think about database, that we're not going to be able to access Rick's database, right?
Well, we're not able to see the information.
Right, but what I'm trying to find out is does the people who created this warrant article want them to find out the information that Brookline is sharing with the database? Is that what they're saying? Because we have to care. We care about we care about everything, But I'm saying, is this based on Brookline? So are we trying to figure out what Brookline is sharing with the database? Because Boston's not gonna tell us what they're sharing all over. I need it, because that's big, and I'm just trying to get an understanding. Am I making sense? What
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. And so I think even when we use phrases like sharing with the database, like we don't share, like, if we're
I don't-
looking, yeah, no, like, I understand why your question was phrased that way, because if it's not something like the way that things are worded makes it sound much bigger and more mysterious than it actually is. It's really just somebody shops us from Target and we get the picture and we send it to the brick because it's a general email address and they distribute it to say, you know, identification wanted with this person. Like we don't, I don't know the last time that we made an arrest of somebody in Brookline for a Brookline crime and that person identified himself. Like the database that's getting commonly referenced is what was formerly known as the gang database. Like that's not a question, or, you know, that's not information that we would have in most circumstances unless somebody knew they were going, you know, to a house of correction where their gang status might have an impact on their safety once they got there. And even then, that's usually shared at intake. It's not something that we would know unless it was, you know, we had a warrant for somebody and we had the information that was gang related because it was relevant to whatever the crime was, you know, about the time.
I just should ask another question. I'm just.
I don't know if that answered your.
No. Yeah, that's fine. But I'm wondering, once we, well, first thing, the most important thing is to establish subcommittees, right? And once we do that and we start, I think it'll be really important to hear from the people who create the warrant article, like exactly what they're looking for, because this year seems so big. And I know Sarah said invite them to the PCAC meetings. Well, we can't wait a month for the next meeting to invite, so we need to establish subcommittees and start hearing information. We need more from them so that we actually know. And I see this as the like charge, but for me, that's too big.
Like
for
narrow it down, having the information.
I think there's value if you haven't seen the petition, the original petitions, that I think there's value in reading those and you get gives you some of the background and
Yeah.
sort of,
Yeah.
um,
That's what they do. That's what they do packet.
I read it. I'm a town meeting member too, so I read it. But again.
Yeah.
It's, for me, you can read this, but then you give me this and that, for me, it feels so big.
Right.
And, you know, I think.
Great. And like, how will I know what's accurate and valid? And how would I be able to determine accuracy and validity in the database?
well, like.
7 of us, or so.
So is who
I wouldn't either as.
Yeah, you wouldn't either. So I'm just kind of thinking, tagging on to Kimberly, that it might be helpful to have a meeting sooner than the next meeting and invite some of the petitioners for the warrant article just to come and see if we can get from them and tease us out a little bit more easily, I guess.
And they could be one of the subcommittees. It could be in the subcommittee. Scott's answer.
What do you say, Scott?
Little
If I
hand.
could just make a suggestion, if you can.
Stop sharing, so we can see stuff.
Yeah.
Hear
Scott.
me all?
I got you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, you were an elf for a while.
Can you hear me all right? Sorry, it's.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, I mean, this task is big. I think I would just say that, like, we've got a year to work on this, right? So I don't think we're going to make the perfect subcommittee assignments, which are going to last a full year right now at this meeting. We don't even know what we don't know, right? I think Sarah's suggestion is a good starting point. I don't think we need to be, a little too literal with the wording, but the idea that one committee will go off and try to find out as much as possible about the operations, what actually happens, who is working at the brick, what happens when the information, a particular notice goes out, the sort of thing that we got from the BPD about the dispatch system. I think that kind of like detailed insight into the sort of day-to-day operations is useful, and having one or two people sort of charged to go off and gather that, I think, would be useful. The second, the compliance with operations with expectation of non-discrimination, I would interpret that just more broadly as going out and collecting the information about what is Boston's trust policy, what are the policies that the brick is bound by. Chief Pastor mentioned some procedure concerns from Brookline about validating the information we receive. So just, I mean, at this point, we're not making policy suggestions. We're not trying to elaborate what is right or wrong or good. Just trying to collect all this information, I think, is the first step that we need to do. And I think there's plenty of stuff to collect in terms of that non-discrimination and policy part. The evidence of accurate and valid determinations of inclusion of individuals in its databases. Again, I would just sort of say more generally, start collecting information about the databases, what databases there are. And yes, like database is a weird term. It's not necessarily like some all-seeing thing, but what information is collected and what information goes back, and starting to collect information and enumerate that. Again, like no one's going to write the final version of the report at their next meeting, but someone can go out and try to start collecting information. And I honestly don't know as much about the fourth pillar, the oversight of operations. That does seem to overlap a little bit with how I'm reading the policy perspective about what policies actually bind the operations. But even if we were just to go out and sort of collect data on those three topics: general operations, day-to-day operations, what are the policies that bind the operation of the BRIC, and the third is what databases are out there. I think that would keep us busy for at least a month or two and give us more information about what the next steps should be. I like John, I don't pretend that I've got a better plan here or that this is the best plan, but I do think we need a plan and not to spend another hour sort of debating about the perfect plan.
You don't have an hour, Scotty. I volunteer for the compliance subcommittee. How about that?
Okay, so what paragraph is that?
No, 2.
Number 2. Okay. So
The data guy should volunteer for database.
well said.
I don't know if it needs a subcommittee, but I can do database research. Yeah.
I'll say I was fascinated by the information I got on the Brookline dispatch system, and I would love to have a similar, peek into the BRIC operations. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but
Are you volunteer for database?
So
well, I'll either help down with database, or to the extent that we can peek inside the BRIC, I'd love to peek inside the BRIC.
Oh,
so John Hill is number 3, right? Sure. Databases, right? Okay. And Scott, you were volunteering for which?
The day operations. I mean, I can at least email the various people and sort of say, hey, if we're a committee in Brookline, if either invite a member of their BRIC staff to come and talk to us, or if we need to go there, I can do the legwork to try to set up some conversation with the people who actually run the BRIC day to day.
Okay.
And maybe the chief can help me make those connections.
Okay.
I think what I'll do, if it's okay with the group, I'll send one introductory email, just.
Yeah. Great. And number 1 is provide us with fully transparent, accurate information on its operations.
I get that, is that me?
Okay.
I mean, everyone else is.
No, that's database. That's
These database.
yeah, that's number 3.
But number 1 is provide us with
Operations.
transparent, accurate information.
Yeah.
You're the same. You said that.
Is that the same?
Well, I just think
Yeah.
there's some conceptual overlap.
Yeah, you're right.
We could, yeah.
Well, maybe we could,
I mean, we're not.
maybe we can talk to each other and.
It's gonna be
You're gonna
out.
Yeah.
You can't.
I
So-
know.
to each other,
This is the problem with how this works.
Subcommittee, we have to be, it has to be at least 2 of us.
I understand.
So we could,
Well, we need to address that a little later about setting up subcommittee meetings with Sarah, okay? But just keep that thought in mind.
But if these are all individual research tasks for the time being, we need subcommittees.
They're all individual research tasks, and you don't have to do subcommittees. You are a party of one. But if you are a party of 2, we have to do a subcommittee.
And then number 4 is show effective oversight of its operations by appropriate local surveying officials. Okay.
I mean, as a research task, I would say the research task would be, you know, what maybe what Jessica had volunteered. What are the annual hearings that have been held? How often are they done? Has there ever been any pushback? Like, and has any of the boards charged with reviewing, you know, what boards are charged with reviewing BRIC operations? Has the BRIC ever done something that got pushed back on? You know, is this a review that happens every year, every 6 months or whatnot? Like, again, like we're not solving the whole problem, but in a month we could sort of research the basic parameters of what are, who has oversight and who's held hearings, right?
Why don't I volunteer for that? I'll contact City Councilor Minion and Culpepper to start with that. And then we'll go from there.
Okay, we also want to talk to the petitioners who are separate from him. Well,
No, it's appropriate local surveillance. So the way I interpret it is local meaning Boston. All right?
well, Boston, Brooklyn, but yeah.
Yeah, not Brookline. Okay,
Does everyone think to do?
so are you accounted for yet?
No, I'm not accounted for yet.
Which one would be in compliance with me?
Everything.
No, wait a minute. So what would we do in compliance?
I'm gonna talk to the subcommittee and see what they want. I have no idea. I mean, the petitioners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk to the petitioners because
Yeah.
I don't know very much about the petition. And I'm also very curious to find out what I presume that I wasn't there, you know, I presume the petitioners backed up their pace with what they felt other like national groups or whatever groups or ACO or whoever was involved did, and I'm not familiar with any of that material. So I would like to become familiar with that material.
And town meeting was recorded.
Yeah.
And you can
Recorded.
review that
Online.
article. I'll find it. Let me make a note to find it and send it to you.
Okay. So
If I could just do two concrete things. We've heard the Boston Trust Act. So pulling a copy of that, comparing that with our local special orders on the same topic and seeing if there are, you know, areas of overlap and areas of disagreement. And the other thing which I know Brookline has done recently was sort of facial surveillance and use of AI. I don't know what the Boston equivalents are, but those are just two specific research questions associated with that.
Okay, let me just summarize our subcommittees for the BRIC Article 25 motion. So compliance, which is number 2, paragraph 2, will be Ron Wilson and Kimberly Richardson. Databases, which is number 3, paragraph 3, will be Scott O'Neill and John Hillard. Operations will be Christine Koff, and number 4 about oversight by civilians. Number 4 is Paul Yee. Okay.
Okay, can somebody send me that list and I'll reach out to everybody about setting up meetings?
Go. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else is discussed on this?
I'll just say I was going to, I think, help operations with Christine. I'm interested in trying to set up the conversations with the people who work at the BRIC. I think that qualifies as operations, not database.
Okay. Scott, so you want to be on 2 committees, correct? Subcommittees, I mean.
I was going to only do operations, but I'm sure. Put me on 2. I'll do the.
All
right.
Join
Officially on board, all right?
Okay.
Okay.
So number 1.
Okay. So, moving on. It's 8:30 already, guys. Number 7, update on proposed changes to PCAC website, John and Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I can do a quick, I feel like we don't want to spend a lot of time on this today. I had done a vocal overview of this last time. This would be the less vocal sort of framing of how the site could look. Let me zoom in a little bit if I can. Where I don't think we should vote on this today, but at a high level, we would change the current Brookline PCAC website. Just the main part, not the navigation or anything like that, just the main content to have 3 sections about the PCAC, what we do, why we're established, and some quick links. This would all be on the homepage. Some common documents that we have on the website that are useful. So like what our charge is, the most recent assessment, the most recent overview from Chief Pastor, like useful documents for someone getting up to speed. And then a section which is devoted to frequently asked questions. What does the PCAC do? What kind of complaints can be filed? I mostly made this up. So I don't exactly, maybe we need a subcommittee. There's a lot of content here, but it's really boilerplate. I didn't get into anything super interesting. And then from the vocal overview last time, there was a few pieces of feedback that I captured, which is mostly accounted for in the frequently asked questions, like when do we meet, how to participate in public process, could I be anonymous, things like that. And then, yeah, this is basically where we're at. I guess what I would like to do is understand, should we like keep investigating, keep pushing on this, or now with the scope of work from warrant article 25, should we table this for some period of time? I don't exactly have a point of view on this, but I thought I'd open up, get some feedback from the committee on what do we want to do with this work, and how should we push it forward, given our priorities.
So is this ready?
If I could,
Scott, please.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, this looks good to me. I don't know that I want to go through this word by word right now, given the length of this article and the amount of stuff we have. But I think I would, if this was, I don't attached to the agenda or sent out to the committee, I'd be willing to like redline it and change anything, or maybe I won't find anything to redline at all and bring that back next meeting. Like I think we can. It looks close enough that I think we could get something done with it. I don't think we necessarily need to do it right now.
Okay, so I could take an action to at least attach this into the minutes. The committee could review it and we could discuss for a vote next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
sounds good.
Do you feel it's very?
I do. I mean, it feels simple enough.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Civilian complaint reports. Lieutenant McDowell. I'm sorry.
No. I
So
know.
let me apologize to you. I know you attached like the redacted report,
Yes.
and we forgot to put that as part of our agenda, so.
Okay.
I don't think the members have it.
Okay.
Please give us all.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
I know, the last time, we did speak at the last meeting, a couple questions came up with the classifications and findings. This, time on in the May civilian complaint, I did add those, in each, after the completion of each report. So I'll start with the first one. This was, IA case number 2026-05. This was a complaint that came in online from a citizen, concerning her interaction, with, an officer during a motor vehicle stop. In the complaint, she took full responsibility for the motor vehicle in violation, stated that she deserved the ticket. Her primary concern, however, was the manner in which the officer treated her during the traffic stop. She stated that she found him to be abrasive and rude and felt that she had, committed a crime. She further stated that she understood that this officer was new to the department. She wasn't necessarily looking to get him into trouble, but wanted, to bring this to our attention. So I immediately reviewed the body worn camera of the traffic stop, and I agreed with her assessment regarding the demeanor of the officer on the traffic stops. I then conducted an interview with that officer regarding the stop, and he acknowledged that he allowed his emotions to influence his conduct during the stop. He further indicated that he should have handled the interaction more professionally. So during the course of my investigation, and conversations that I had with the complainant and the officer. I inquired whether they'd be willing to participate in a mediation meeting to discuss the incident. Both agreed, and the meeting was held in my office. The mediation is sometimes used where this was kind of a perfect example to use it in. Newer officer, no previous complaints. You know, she indicated that she wasn't looking to get this officer in trouble. She took fully responsibility for the ordeal. It's just, she kind of wanted to let him know how she felt. So the mediation session was productive. It achieved its intended purpose. Both were afforded the opportunity to communicate that concern her, and especially complained her concerns directly, and provided meaningful feedback regarding her experience. The officer obviously took the comment seriously. He accepted responsibility of his conduct. He demonstrated a willingness to learn from the experience. So I think overall, the meeting concluded on a positive note, with both parties expressing satisfaction with the opportunity to openly discuss the incident. So my finding on that one was mediated, and the complaint was classified because of rudeness, discouragement. It was classified as a Class B complaint.
So what's A, B, C, D?
So A would be like serious in nature, like committed a crime, something of that nature. Class B is more the rudeness, personal bias, stuff like that. C would be, it could be like a policy, you know, they didn't understand the policy, so forth. And D would be no misconduct at the investigation. Please continue. All right, excellent. Excuse me. The second one, this was an I case number 2026-06. This one right now, I have completed this was a very lengthy investigation. Each initial interview that I did, someone else popped up that was there that night. I'm hoping to get you guys the report, the chief's report tomorrow, send that out to you. And then I'm gonna update on next month's civilian. So I was hoping if I could hold off to next month, because then you guys will at least be able to, the committee can at least read the chief's report, because it was a lengthy report and investigation. The next one was IA case number 2026-07. This was submitted online by an individual. So this is pertaining to the incident that we had in Brookline regarding ICE. I know Deputy Superintendent O'Neill discussed this the last meeting. So this individual obviously wasn't involved, and he doesn't live in Brookline. He just filed a complaint. He didn't agree with us releasing the individual. So obviously he doesn't know our policies on, you know, people are subject to release, you know, so forth on that. I made several attempts to contact this individual. He never returned any of my phone calls. So after reviewing everything, department policy and everything, the actions that involved personnel, I determined this complaint to be frivolous complaint, which means it's just, there's nothing there. So that was classified as a Class D complaint. So they are. This one was from May 18th, 2026. This was an online complaint from a citizen who wished to remain anonymous, but signed the name section as John Doe. The complainant did not allege any specific misconduct by the officer, but instead provided a summary of an interaction between the complainant and an unidentified officer. This one, there was a short 13-second clip video that was attached to it. So I was able to identify who the officer was. In the video, the complainant just can be here telling the officer that he was not using his turn signal while making a turn. During the interaction, I did not observe any misconduct by the officer. Both parties briefly expressed what they had observed and then continued in their separate directions. The interaction never escalated to a level of concern. So it's basically just this, you know, individual just came up and expressed something to the officer. Nothing really was said during that raised it to a level of concern. I did speak to the officer. I got a little more input into it. But really after there was really nothing in this that from the information that I had raised to a level of anything, concern in it. So this was filed and it was, classified as a Class B complaint. The next one, IA case number 2026-8. I received an online complaint from a citizen who wanted to remain anonymous. The complaint states that a crossing guard in front of 194 Boyle Street was rude and made several insulting remarks. The complaint states, as you can see up here, muffled. The speech was something like, I'm not going to repeat it, but and reference other possible statements as well. The wording of the complaint indicated uncertainty regarding the exact statement. So in this one here, it was an anonymous complaint. I had no options of calling back this individual. I had no idea who this individual was. There were several red flags that raised that I observed, especially where the complaint stated that this individual muffled speech was something like, you know, the name. I would have a question, are you 100% guarantee? Is that what he said? Are you sure that's what he said? So, you know, obviously when investigating an anonymous complaint, it's important to gather as much information as possible in order to conduct a thorough and fair review. So in this case, the complaint did not provide any contact information that will allow me to contact follow-up questions or seek clarification regarding the alleged allegations that were being made. So I really had nothing else to really go on. I did interview the cross guard and he denied, you know, said he had a small interaction, but denied saying this. So basically, again, I had really not much to go on. I had several questions if I was able to speak to the complaint that I want to verify, you know, how certain he was with this, what he actually said. So this was filed and it was complaint classification of the so that is where I stand with the complaints. And like I said, I can follow up with you guys regarding the one that I just completed next month, and we'll have more information regarding that, the finding, so forth.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions for the members?
Appreciate the classifications.
Yeah, I think it makes it a little easier to understand now.
Thank you. Let's see, next. Civilian feedback reports, Sarah and
So there is no civilian feedback report. There has not been one since, well, January's report was just that somebody had used, like, I think it was Paul, had used the form to make sure it worked. It does. I'm still not getting civilian, or there are still no, there does not seem to be residents interacting with this form, which is strange.
Which leads us to the next item, which is how we get engagement with the form.
And Ryan.
Okay, so back when we were using the SurveyMonkey form, we did at least occasionally get civilians in a final reports. We do find it strange that since we switched over to Google Forms, there hasn't been any real responses. There could be profuse. We know the form works because we've tried it. So there's that. So we're going to start with the assumption that people who used old links, the links would work, but and that people are just kind of unaware of how to give feedback with the current form. So we're thinking about doing some sort of a publicity initiative to increase public awareness of the form. Back when we did the SurveyMonkey version of the form, we did have some ideas about how to publicize the form, which probably are still relevant. And I think I put a list of in the packet. There is. I don't know if you could bring that up, Sarah. The agenda packet, there was one document I put in. It just kind of lists the ideas we have going back to 2022 for how we could increase awareness of the form. There were 5 different ideas in there. Yeah. Okay. So what is it? Well, there's one bugaboo that we realize is we have to look into, which is had the form translated into additional languages. Although I don't think that's the main thing right now, although I do think going forward, if we really want the form to be used well by all the different constituents in the town, that is something I would like to get to. But I think the more important thing is publicizing existence of the form on various media and at community events. So on things like for the Brookline Townwide discussion and Facebook, even the police department Facebook page, in putting a little press release in something like Brookline Patch, those kinds of things, just to make people aware of the fact that they can give all kinds of feedback about the interaction with the Brookline Police. I think that would be very useful. And actually, Sarah came up with the kind of a visual, an attractive visual that might catch people's attention on something like Facebook, or even on some sort of a poster that we put up in community bulletin boards. That would give some people, make people more aware of the form, and hopefully, if we efficiently put something like a QR code on a poster like that, that people would be incentivized to because it's easy to do and they've got ideas. I really like the idea of she's got a web thing here. I think the QR code would next to the URL would be useful, and that should be doable. So that's number one. So, number two, I did come up with could you put up the news release text, please, Sarah? That's the one.
The image?
Yeah, no, not the image, which is news release text for the civilian feedback form.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was a kind of a few paragraphs that just sort of describes what the PCAC is, the fact that we really are interested in feedback from the community, and this is one way we can get feedback from the community, and we encourage people to talk to us. And if we can put that in some of the same social media places, and even as a kind of a short blurb in something like in the Brookline Patch, I think that would be very useful, especially if we also put a QR code as well as the URL there. So first of all, the people think that these are worthwhile ideas for publicizing the civilian feedback form. Oh, by the way, to also add that John and Sarah, if we could make the civilian feedback form more prominent on the PCAC website, like right now it's kind of buried in the text, it could be on the side alongside the complaint forms.
Yeah,
I think that would be useful. So those are my thoughts on doing that. And I think it would be relatively easy to push that forward. I don't think it's not going to take huge amounts of time. So I don't think it's going to interfere with the work we have to do for the Article 25 fulfillment. So,
and then there was also on this list printing out printed copies of the form. I would rather not do that. There's I don't want to be accused of, like, myself or anyone else like entering this information incorrectly. I'm happy to sit with somebody and help them fill out the form, but I don't want to like take a written copy and then be responsible for putting that information in somewhere, and then if it, and then reporting it out as, if the person who gave me that information feels like I did it wrong, then it could reflect badly on the PCAC.
okay, I understand. There are plenty of other things for us to do, so I don't consider that to be a critical piece.
And then in terms of languages, like my office has a list of the 6 most common languages spoken in Brookline and in order. So Spanish is on that list, but it's not number 1. I just would do I would do all 6 at once, and if you want to do that, I would suggest inviting Ahmed Hamza to a future meeting, letting him know what you want, and then you can go ahead. And I think that this commission has $1,000, like most other commissions, committees, and boards that I work with through my office to do things with. So you could use some of that money to get the forms translated.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'm thinking that, well, we're just gonna put that on the agenda for a future meeting. I'm thinking that the more immediate things would be to get, at least for the English version, to get out the press release. Who would be responsible for, I mean, I suppose any of us could post something in as part of the Brookline Town discussion on Facebook.
My office has asked me not to be a member of that group, so it can't be me.
Yeah, okay. I can, just on Facebook, the Brookline Town discussion.
Oh, God,
We've had some thoughts about that.
it's too tough.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah, it isn't always, well, whatever. I can see still putting something up.
You should do it.
Yeah, I can do it.
I don't like it, so you go up to the top for you, but.
I mean, I can send it to Christina Metcalf to have it put in the town administrator's newsletter. I can send it to the senior center to have it added to their newsletter.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, just one comment, like I see two angles to this. One is awareness, which I think this plan tackles and it makes sense. The other is kind of discoverability, like if people are looking for this form, can they find it? And I do think just trying to Google it now, it's not easy to find it. So I think we should, like you said, change the prominence of it on the website. And I think it is more prominent even in the plan that I shared. But I do notice that if you just Google Brookline police feedback, you get sent to the complaint form, and then you would have to somehow find the way to give, positive feedback or different. So
I
something.
can talk to James about if there are ways we can increase the findability. I don't know the right word. I'm not aware.
Yeah, I do think there's like a SEO question, search engine optimization, which is like if somebody's like has a good interaction, Brookline police feedback. You kind of have to work pretty hard to get to the right place. So I think that's worth some energy, and I think we can address some of that with the website changes for sure.
Okay, great.
Appreciate it. Okay, so I guess I'm committed to at least putting enough in Brookline Town by discussions, and Kimberly is looking forward to seeing kind of feedback.
If you like the flyer and if you like the flyer and the press release, I would vote on them so that because it's something of it's business of the committee.
Say that again, you're saying that?
I would vote on them as like, you want them to go out because it's business of the business of the committee.
Yeah, okay, so in other words, of the suggestions that are, or just the particular text that I put in there, just to vote whether we accept the text and whether it's worth attempting to publicize that with in various ways, yes?
Yeah.
Vote on it?
Do you like the flyer or do you want something else?
Can you just push that up again, Sarah, for us?
Yeah, I definitely can. Give me a second.
Fire going.
So everybody has the same understanding.
So it's very basic on purpose. And
And then, so we'll vote on the flyer, and then also you said the press release.
yeah, I just want to know if the group approves them and then
Yeah.
we can move forward.
I think people were asking that a QR code be down there instead of a website
or.
Okay, and or.
For accessibility, you want to do both.
Yeah, okay.
is
Okay,
it-
fine.
I can add a QR code
Okay,
That's fine. You can approve it with the addition of QR code.
So accept that as change with a QR code included.
I so,
Second, Kimberly,
yeah,
second.
Ron move, Kimberly second.
Okay, any more discussion? No. Okay, vote,
Ron votes aye.
Kimberly? John?
Christine,
Christine? Aye.
John Hilliard, aye.
Scott?
Scott Nanian votes aye.
Great, and Paul, you vote aye. Okay, do we have to vote on the press release
Yeah,
thing?
we do.
I would do it if I would do it for the
You
record.
also both bring that up, please.
Sure. New, okay. And then share.
Okay. Thanks, Ron, for drafting this. Are we prepared to vote on this? Yes. Okay, can I have a motion to
I move, Ron moves.
accept this? And, okay. To accept and publicize this, okay? And,
Ron votes aye.
Kimberly,
John,
John Hilliard, aye.
Christine, Knopf, aye.
yes,
And
Okay.
Scott,
Scott Nanian votes aye.
great, thank you, and Paul, you vote aye, great. Anything else? Top? All right, keep moving on. Ice and Brookline update.
There've been no additional activities.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry,
Deputy
Deputy
Superintendent.
O'Neill's on vacation, wasn't supposed to be logged in.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, no, this is easy. No additional updates, no recent activity other than the complaint that Lieutenant Amendola mentioned. But that would be the only ICE related thing.
Sorry to interrupt your vacation.
No worries.
Thank you for logging in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last time we talked about having internal policy for reviewing complaints, for PCAC and, I drafted one up. And I circulated, amongst, a few people, and there were some revisions. And now the final with some caveat is here for, review and discussion and vote. So everybody had a chance to look at it.
I'm sorry, it's 9 p.m. I need to go. So Ron or John, would either of you be willing to
All right, why don't we
take the
table
meeting?
it? All right. Until next meeting, everybody take a look at it when you have a chance. So our next meeting is August 17, 2026. Scott,
you're muted.
yes,
No, sorry. Let's go on. Let's let Sarah leave. We'll finish this up.
all right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Okay.
aye, adjourn.
Aye.
John Hilliard, aye.
Christine,
Christine, Knopf, aye.
Scott,
Scott Nanian aye.
all ye aye. Everybody,
Thank you,
thank you
Sarah.
for staying late. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chief.
Sarah.
Thank you. And,
You're welcome, everybody. I just want to let you know that the August meeting and the October meeting have been approved. I'm still waiting on the other meetings, but the August meeting will be in room 111, and October will also, both October meetings I think will be in room 111 as well. That's the only room I asked for, so I will figure out why the other ones I'm still waiting on. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Our department is having National Night Out again this year. It's always the first Tuesday in August, August 4th. So, you can have a table or not have a table, but you're all invited to just be there and it's
Where are you gonna have it?
Brookline Out. Lynch or whatever. I don't know if that's another name now.
When Linda was president, We had a booth there.
Yeah,
Um,
you're welcome to have a booth. If you don't want a booth and you just want to come walk around, and you should get PCAC t-shirts or something. I don't
so,
know, motorcycle,
Extra
leather
small.
jackets, I don't know, whatever.
so this is a way to publicize.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
They put a little flyer or something. before
Yeah.
people go.
You have a lot of residents there, parents with their children, at night, the police, obviously,
So I think when we ran when we were, ran the booth that one year, we even had a little box where people could put in,
Right.
put in questions or whatever.
Right.
PCAC. I don't think we got anything very significant, but still. But it was kind of cute when parents would come up with a little kid and say, write a little thing, put it in a box, and that way you can interact with the police. It was very,
Even if you have like questions from kids, if they're silly, give them to us and Sergeant Rob can do a video with them. you
Yeah.
know?
So, anyway, so that's a good point. So that's Tuesday, August 2nd. you said?
August, I think it's August 4th. It's always the
August 4th.
first Tuesday in August.
First, okay.
So is it, anybody interested?
Yeah, I don't know about booth, but
Think about it,
Yeah.
right?
I'll do something else.
I think Ron is.
if someone is on the meeting, not Sarah, she left already, we should stop the recording and end the meeting.
Sure.
Close my laptop.
I am still here.
Okay, just making sure.
The meeting is still running. and- Because you're talking about
Yeah.
PCAC business, so
Okay,
I'm still recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so I think we're done.
all right, are you adjourning?
Yeah.
We're
well,
already-
we-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, Sarah, thanks.